Hello, my name is Ryan Yoakum, and today I wanted to talk about how you can perform competitor research for the research methods in sports administration class. So rather than focus on a single database like we have been in previous videos, today we're going to provide a little broad overview of a couple of different resources that are relevant to this question. So if we're in the Sports Administration Research Guide, we're going to go down to the Sports Organization Research box, as that's going to provide most of the resources we'll talk about today. So, the first thing we're going to think about is nonprofit research, as most of the questions that you're going to be asking will probably involve some form of nonprofits as your competitors. So, if we find the financial records box, we're going to see two resources here, one for GuideStar and one for ProPublica, which are both going to be really great resources for this class. I'm going to click, though, today on just ProPublica. And once we're here, we're going to type in the name of our organization. So we're going to do NCAA, for example. And what it's going to provide right here is a bunch of financial information related to this nonprofit. All nonprofits are legally bound to fill out what's known as a 990 form, which is an annual tax form that requires them to disclose that information. There are some nonprofits, like churches, for example, or religious organizations, that don't necessarily have to fill out this form, but or make that public, but they are, for most other organizations, they are legally required to share this information. We can see ProPublica's analysis of that right here. But if we go to the right and we click where it says 990, we can click on this blue button where it says view filing right here and see the original tax form that they filled out. Now I'm going to exit out of there, and we're going to shift our focus now to public companies. So if we're thinking more in the for-profit area, there's going to be two aspects of companies known as public and private. Private companies are not bound to share any financial information, but public ones are, and you'll know the difference between whether it is in the stock market or not, basically. Public companies are in the stock market, while private companies are not. And because they're in the stock market, they are legally bound to share financial information and a bunch of other aspects to potential investors, since you could theoretically invest in any of those companies. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to find the for-profit public sports company research box, and we're going to click right here today on Business Source Complete. Now, let's just say we're interested in Nike as they're interested in athletic sportswear. If we wanted to learn more about Nike, we can go down here where it says Publications, and now type in Nike, for example. And if we click on this market line company profile, go to this year, and then click on PDF as your access option, we're going to see now an overview of this company that will involve as well its history, key employees, some products and services it provides, a SWOT analysis, which is known as a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, and a couple of information about their competitors. So I highly recommend looking at these reports as well. I will also briefly mention that ProQuest One Business and Business Insights, as well as Nexus Uni, do occasionally have private company information, but it's going to be a little more sparse. So I wouldn't rely on it necessarily. If you have questions there, you can ask me about it, but these are good resources too if you happen to want to research a private company. Now, finally, the best place to find any information, I would say, is the organization's website. So we're going to open a new tab, and we'll go back to our example of the NCAA. I'm going to click right here. Now, this is going to be a little tricky because if we first go to ncaa.com, we're probably not going to find anything right here that's going to initially stand out. But if we scroll down to the bottom of the page, and then we go to this section that says About the NCAA, that's going to take us to ncaa.org, not .com, which is now going to have a whole separate outlook and platform here where we will be able to find that information. So just be wary of that when you're looking at different companies. It might be a little tricky, and there might be some nuances within the URL that you might have to keep an eye on. Now, if we click over here to the drop-down menu for NCAA, there's going to be this Finances button right here that we can click on. And from there as well, we can go to the right side of the screen, which has the 2023-2024 NCAA financial statements. And we can go through that then directly from their website. So those are just 3 examples of places you can go to get competitor research. But if you have any questions or need any assistance researching any competitors, Always feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to help you out. Thank you so much, and I wish you the best in performing competitor research for this class.